Lisa, you've just finished 12 weeks on Slim and Sustain. How much weight did you lose?
Yay, I lost 16 pounds actually in total. And I completed the program a few weeks ago and still maintaining, still enjoying the great food.
And that's definitely something we're going to touch on later, right? Because I think a lot of people have the feeling that they can lose weight. But then there's questions about, how do I actually maintain this now for the rest of my life without rebounding back up the scale? So I've got some questions for you on that later on. 16 pounds, does that surprise you? Did that exceed, there's no right or wrong answer, obviously. Did that exceed expectations? Is that about right?
I think that my goal was actually 15. So it was really pretty close. Was I surprised that I accomplished it? I was surprised at first how quickly the weight was dropping. And I was pleasantly surprised that I was able to do it in that period of time.
Okay. So it's about right in terms of your expectation. But perhaps there was some pleasant surprises in, you didn't say this, but the nature of how we actually did that. Maybe, I don't want to use the word ease, but maybe the ease.
For sure. And I would say how quickly, like I said, how quickly it started to come off right away. I think I lost, 2 pounds in the first week. And it really wasn't major struggles. I was enjoying the food and I wasn't hungry all the time. And the program itself was easy. So yeah, I was pleasantly surprised by all of that.
Yeah, these are all definitely pleasant surprises, aren't they?
Yeah.
We'll come on to sort of maybe some of the challenges or struggles that you had in the program as well. So it's not all sunshine.
Right.
But you did have a good start. I think, let's play devil's advocate with this. There'll be people listening to this thinking, 2 pounds in your first week? Oh, when I start a new diet, Lisa, I lose 5 pounds. All that water goes and all the junk food is out my diet. Why do you think you were so pleased with 2 pounds? Was that a lot more than what you'd noticed in the past when you'd start kind of trying to...
I had lost, more weight than that in the past, in the first week, on other things that I had tried. Like one other thing I tried, I lost 3 pounds. The biggest difference on this was, though, that I wasn't hungry. Like on those other plans, I felt like I was really suffering. And to your point, it wasn't all a bed of roses. I ate a lot of junk plant food. And so there were some...
on the program.
Before the program. Yeah, before the program. I ate a lot of junk plant food. And so I definitely had some sugar cravings that I had to deal with in those first few days. So yeah, the struggle is real, right? It's not all simple, but...
No, but presumably that's going back to what you were saying earlier. So it's not that 2 pounds in the first week necessarily surprised you. You'd seen more weight loss than that in the past. It was the fact that it came with relative ease, with the exception being those early sugar cravings. Is that a fair...
Yeah, that's fair. Yeah.
Of week one. How did you get through those sugar cravings?
Fruit.
Fruit helps.
Yeah, fruit. Because I was in a place where before the program, after dinner, I always craved something sweet. And maybe it was right after dinner. It was definitely sometime between dinner and bedtime. I would have some plant-based cookies or, some vegan pastries or something like that. But right after I finished dinner, while I was on the program, either right after, sometimes I'd wait like an hour or so, and I'd have some really good watermelon or, a good juicy peach or something like that. And it really helped, and it satisfied my cravings.
It doesn't take a lot, does it?
No, it really doesn't.
Just to hit that sweet tooth and just give that little sense of satisfaction. Takes 100 calories of fruit, if that, rather than 300 calories of something far more processed. It's quite amazing. Yeah. Well, how long before the sugar cravings started to fade then?
I would say towards the end of the first week. The other thing that, and I think you and I talked about this before, Ryan, the other thing that was really helpful to me, it sounds kind of crazy, but sugarless gum.
Yeah.
I mean, after every meal, those first couple weeks, I would just have a piece of, even sometimes sugarless bubble gum, you know, to be honest with you. I was just, but it helped give me that little bit of satisfaction. And I kind of joked like, you know, that was my nicotine fix. If I was a smoker, you know, I'm reaching for the gum, but I kept it handy and it really did make a difference. So I'd say by the end of the first week. Yeah.
Still need that now, by the way.
I don't. That's what I was just going to say. I don't.
I do remember, but it's been ages since we talked about it. So it's almost like just this initial sort of, you know, to sort of segue into really clean eating. You just needed, you know, something to bridge that gap, give you that little kick of sweetness.
Yep.
Without adding, you know, a bunch of calories to the old diet.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. And you've been interested in plant-based eating for a very long time, right? How long?
Yeah. So I started a plant-based diet 10 years ago.
Yeah.
And I was pretty diligent about it for 3-4 years. And a combination of really super busy lifestyle with work, went through menopause, which was really a struggle for me. And all of that combined, I sort of fell off the whole food plant-based bandwagon, fell off of that. And I started eating, you know, a little of this and a little more vegan junk food. Then I started, well, I'll have some eggs, and then, you know, this plant-based ice cream is probably good. So I just completely drifted.
Did you start to, and this is important, did you notice that you were making these allowances? Was it conscious? Was it like, oh, I want these treats and I know it's going to affect my weight, but screw it? Or was it just a steady sort of slip of those good habits that you built?
No, I noticed it. I noticed it in my food choices, and I really started to notice it in my weight gain, in the way my clothes were not fitting. And it just got worse and worse. And my biggest issue was during when I started going through menopause, I was not able to sleep. I really had difficulty sleeping. And that really made me just lethargic during the day and made me be less disciplined with everything. So I just started eating more of whatever I wanted. And so it just kind of fell into, and I gained in 3 years at the beginning of menopause, I gained 20 pounds.
20 pounds. Just for context, how long ago was that?
So that was about 7 years ago, 6-7 years ago. And so I really struggled to get that weight off. And it hasn't been until now, till this program, that I was able to get the 16 pounds off.
And so is it a case now of looking at it and going, wow, it's amazing. I knew an awful lot about plant-based nutrition, but clearly, and this is something people tell me all the time, Ryan, the knowledge doesn't seem to be enough. I've got all of these bad habits. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter how many books I've read, not to sound patronizing to you, because your knowledge is decent, but it doesn't count for anything if you're not actually implementing every single day and remaining consistent. So slipping into the vegan junk, some cravings at night, which many people struggle with. Any other bad food habits that were sort of preventing the weight loss?
Fast food.
Fast food.
Yeah.
Like what? Give some examples.
Oh, you name it. I mean, we moved to a neighborhood that there is probably 10 fast food restaurants within 2 miles of our house. I would say within a mile of our house. And so, you know, Chick-fil-A, the healthy one, you know, well, you can still get a wrap at Chick-fil-A. It has some lettuce in there. And so, you know, I was like, well, it's not as bad as if I was eating, you know, something else. I worked in an environment where there was food and client meetings and every day chocolate chip cookies constantly. And like I said, with with a lack of sleep and things just kind of spiraling, you know, it got really out of control for me. And I was, you know, mostly never really struggled with weight most of my life. But my body changed dramatically during menopause. And I was sort of to the point where I was like, and a lot of people say this, well, that's just menopause, that's just middle age, you can't lose it, just learn to live with it. And so then I fell into that trap of, yeah, that's right. I'm just going to live with the extra weight. I'm going to buy bigger clothes. I'm going to stop stressing about it. I'm just going to enjoy whatever I want to eat. And then so that's kind of what I started doing. But I exercise a lot. And so in my mind, I was like, I'll work it off. You know, I run 6 miles on a Saturday morning. I'm going to work this burger off. I'm going to work this chicken sandwich off. And one of the things that I learned that you say over and over again in the program, you cannot out exercise what goes in your mouth. You can't. And so that was a good lesson for me to learn because I fought it for a long time.
It's just so easy to consume a couple of 100 calories, especially from junk food, like 1,000 calories.
I was just going to say, not hundreds, thousands.
Like a small pizza, 1,000 calories, bang.
Yes.
Especially the vegan meats on there and more.
Yes.
If you've got loads of veggies on there, it might be a 500 calorie pizza, but you're in trouble when you start adding more and more processed stuff, right? All the
yes.
et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah.
So you're absolutely right. You are actually probably one of the fittest clients, quote unquote, I've had this year. You know, in terms of your exercise regimen and cardiovascular ability, X, Y, Z, you know, you're a very athletic person, which again is testament to the idea that, yeah, exercise helps. It helps with weight loss, but a lot of this is down to the food, obviously. So bunch of bad habits that coincided with menopause. We start to, and this I want to touch on, we start to maybe accept, you know, that at this stage in our lives, it's impossible, or it's at least extremely difficult to lose weight, which is sadly what a lot of women believe. Because it's what they hear. No bloody wonder. It's what they hear. It's everywhere. Instagram and YouTube is full of this nonsense. And it is disempowering. And I don't want to sound totally dismissive, obviously. I've got probably at any given time, I've got 5 or 6 female clients in menopause at any given time. So these are a lot of my client base. But, excuse me, I've lost my train of thought slightly. Where was I going with that point? Sorry, Lisa.
No, you're okay. If you don't mind, I was also going to mention, you know, even my OBGYN, you know, when I would go for my annual exam or whatever, I'd be like, I'm gaining all this weight. And she's like, that's menopause. You know, don't beat yourself up. That's just menopause. And
it's copium, isn't it? It's like, it's copium. Here's a rationalization for bad habits. Now, again, with this, I remember my point now. Thanks for waiting. Like feeling dismiss, like I don't want to sound ridiculously dismissive, because there clearly are things that coincide with aging and the hormonal change of menopause.
Absolutely.
Been shown to slow down metabolic rate and clearly make it harder to be disciplined with food because of what's happening hormonally at that time. So there is like, and this is the problem, there is validity to the excuse, quote unquote, or the reason of menopause. Like there is some legitimacy to the argument. It definitely is harder for my clients going through that part of their life, that stage of life, to lose weight versus my other clients of a similar-ish demographic or similar-ish starting weight. That is clearly provable. But the idea that we accept that totally as a reason to not even try anymore, how damn disempowering is that?
Yeah.
What changed? Because you were saying, like, I accepted this, I'm just going to eat what the heck I want, don't worry about having to buy larger clothes. What changed for you? When did you go, no, I'm not going to let this menopause thing stop me anymore?
I did buy the larger clothes, and I got to the point where then the larger clothes were getting a little too tight. And I was like, this is getting so out of control. And I just didn't feel good because I had never felt like that my whole life. I never knew what it was like to feel overweight. And so I just got to the point where I was like, you know, there has to be a better way. And I was, you know, of course, social media, and I'm looking at the plant-based, whole food plant-based women going through menopause that are, you know, not gaining the weight. And so that was an eye-opener for me to say, it doesn't have to be this way, but I'm going to have to change my ways.
So you needed almost to see some anecdotal evidence of people that were crushing it in menopause.
Yeah, right. Same age as me, same, you know, struggle they had with sleep, you know, then I'm because, and then I was like, it is possible. It is possible.
Yeah, you just needed that case study, didn't you, to look at it? And that was presumably a tipping point. And then at some point you found my stuff. Yeah. Shortly after this.
Yeah.
And why? Because you already knew on paper what to do. It was just partly sort of a self-belief thing, like, oh, I can do this regardless of the point I'm at in my life, the time I'm at in my life. But you had the info on plant-based nutrition. Like, why did you need me? It's sort of the self-indulgent question, but I think psychologically this is interesting for people watching. Why did you need help?
I got to the point where I had too much information.
Right.
Not, you know, I got a stack of cookbooks that are whole food plant-based. I'm just looking over my shoulder at them. And then, you know, so many recipes and so many things on social media. And I get kind of geek out on that, right? I kind of like watching that stuff. I 100% believe in the health value of a whole food plant-based diet. I don't think there's any pill that can do what that can do for you. So I always kind of paid attention to it. And what happened was it got too complicated for me, right? I was like complicated in a way of like, wow, which recipe should I make? Now I have 2,000 choices. The first, when I started it 10 years ago, it was like 1 or 2 cookbooks, and I would just cook from those books, and it made it really easy. Now I had very difficult. So I needed a program that was going to be whole food plant-based, but that was going to be very simple and not confusing. So I needed that. And I also needed the accountability. So at the beginning of the program, I think it was the first 3 days where we take pictures and send you pictures of the food.
First week. Yeah.
That was so helpful to me because the accountability and I had booked a trip the first few weeks, and I was like that first week, and I was like, oh, but but there was always an excuse. And so I was like, I'm just going to start. I'm going to make it work, you know, maybe a little bit more difficult. But knowing that I was going to be sending you that picture, I made different choices off of that menu. And so that accountability helped.
You felt that in the moment, did you?
Absolutely.
You felt, if I didn't have this guy looking at what I'm doing, I am going to pick something. What you really felt that in the moment when you were selecting. Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. So that helped.
Power of a bit of positive pressure, right?
Yeah.
How did you find the meals on the program then? You're talking about, you had all these recipes, you tried a bunch of recipes in the past. That can be very quickly overwhelming. You're like, what the heck do I cook every single day, right, to lose weight? Any major surprises with the sorts of meals I got you eating versus what you'd learned about nutrition, what you tried in the past?
No, the only major surprise, the food contents and things like that didn't surprise me. What surprised me is how content I was with really pretty similar meals, you know, that weren't all that elaborate, weren't difficult to make. You know, I looked forward to my meals every day, and it was easy. And so, you know, that was it really helped me.
And when you say content, do you also mean in a sort of a satisfaction sense? Because you're talking about the practicality, like the ease and the ease of transition. Like these were a lot of the meals you're eating before, minus the junk food.
Right.
So ease in that sense, but in terms of satisfaction, was that there?
Yeah, it was very satisfying because, you know, as I was studying all the programs in my desperation and still eating crap, but still looking at, I was like, maybe I should go fully raw, right? Like maybe I should do the juice diet and do a, detox juice. And I did all those for a couple days here and there, but I was like, I need something drastic because I've got, I need to lose 15 pounds.
Yeah.
And I know some people that need to lose 40 and 50 are like, 15, that's easy. But for somebody that has been thin my whole life and stayed the same size clothes my entire adulthood.
That felt like a big number to you.
That was huge. I was like, what? I don't wear that size clothes. But anyways, so that I was trying all kinds of different things. And so to know that I could sit down and have, cereal, oatmeal for breakfast with fruit. I mean, that made me happy. People are like, you're eating rice and you're on I thought you said you're on a whole food plant-based diet and you can eat that rice. I was like, yeah. And, so
all those carbs.
Yeah, exactly. That's what people freak out about. And that to me is very satiating. If I know I can look forward to, a big thing of quinoa and some rice and veggies and some beans. Yeah. Throw a good sauce on there. And to me, it was great.
We talk about this very casually on the program because this is so normal for us. Like actually enjoying your diet. We just talk about it. I've been doing this for so long that I'm like, yeah, of course we enjoy our diets. Obviously. But this actually boggles the mind to outsiders looking in.
Yeah. And
like what you eat and lose weight. The story of weight loss is this horrible, restrictive, depriving experience, right?
Right. Yeah. So we had a couple of friends come and stay with us, and I got into a habit of that sandwich that's on your plan with hummus, avocado on some, Ezekiel toast or whatever. And I would load it up pretty thick with lettuce, carrots, radish, cucumbers. And so, they're like, you're allowed to eat bread, and I was like, and it filled me up so much. And so I started making the sandwiches for them and they still are eating the sandwiches. They love that sandwich.
Spreading the message.
I was like, you're welcome to this or, but it's every day. I was like, oh, I can't wait for lunch. I mean, it's a great, I'd do a big long hike or something, come home and, eat a big sandwich and, a ton of fruit afterwards, like, big thing of watermelon. It's great.
Again, this is all so normal to me. I don't need to downplay what you're saying. It's so normal because this is what you guys, my clients, tell me every single day. Hey, I love this meal. I love this meal. I love this meal right now. Thank you, Ryan. I love my diet and I'm losing weight. Like, this is win-win. But this is profound to the outsiders looking in.
Yeah.
Also worth contextualizing. You live in Texas.
Right.
So you've got a bunch of meat-minded, keto types. Carbs are the enemy. You need the protein. You're surrounded by those kind of people. So you're going to have some really interesting reactions.
Yeah, right. And it's easy, like I said, I fell right back into that. Like I was like, yeah, I might as well eat all this. If I'm going to gain weight and going to be in menopause, I might as well eat, eat the barbecue.
Yeah. Hummus sandwiches then. You mentioned the oatmeal with fruit in the morning. Any other sort of favorites from the meal plan that you're still enjoying now, even though we've finished?
Pasta. I love the lentil pasta.
More carbs?
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, with lentils, and it takes like 15 minutes to make that lentil marinara, and I love it.
That's a good batch cooking one as well. Do you make things of that? Yeah.
For sure. Yeah. I mean, we would, I'd go from Mexican bowl one night, the next night I'd have and I'd just make 2 batch things. The next night I'd have the lentil pasta. Then we go back to the Mexican bowl, but maybe take some of those ingredients and make them more of an Asian bowl by adding some edamame and things like that, a Mediterranean bowl. So easy.
And not to put words in your mouth, but you just sort of implied it there. There's a lot of meals on my plans that are quite versatile. So I'll tell clients, oh, for this meal, like the rice and beans bowls, and I've got very set burrito bowls, and there's the sushi bowl I think you're referring to.
Yeah.
The recipes, but there's also a couple of recipes that, if you think about it, they're like 20 recipes in one, because I let you use several whole grains and I give you the measurements for each and several different types of beans, and you can alternate the veggies and you get to choose the fat source out of XYZ, or you get to choose from 5 dressings. And sorry, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but I think that's really important to have these kind of utility meals, versatile meals.
Yeah.
And it means that we don't have to have loads of variety if we don't want to, but we can.
Right.
How important was having lots of variety, or perhaps having very little variety for you personally?
It was a combination of the simple meal plus the variety, right? And what I mean by that, if I make a big thing of rice, and I do typically, rice or quinoa or some sort of grain on a Sunday, I can add salsa and black beans and make that a Mexican bowl. Yep. Or I can add chickpeas and edamame and make it a taste totally different, a Mediterranean bowl. Yep. And so simple. All I'm doing is dumping different things in, but I've got my base and I've got my greens in there that are going to go either way. And so that's what I love about it is I'm not really in the mood for Mexican tasting tonight. I can use almost the exact same ingredients with a little bit of a different sauce and a different bean, some different veggies, and now I've got a Mediterranean bowl.
Entirely different flavor.
Entirely different.
Yeah. Okay. I think that's actually a huge lesson for people at home is try and make your meal plan one that has lots of overlapping ingredients.
Yeah.
So when you do batch cooking, especially with things like grains, you've got a grain that can turn into 5 dishes.
Right.
So, sorry, you didn't say that, but that's one thing.
Exactly. Yeah.
You said overlapping ingredients.
Yep.
One of the things, to change tack slightly, one of the things you actually mentioned this in your review a couple of weeks back, that you wrote when you finished, is how your relationship with food has changed since we first met. In particular, what you particularly mentioned, I don't know if you recall this, was how you've sort of shifted from that pleasure-based eating, like everything is what will make me feel good, what will I enjoy, to, and you've just told us that you still enjoy your food now, so that's an interesting nuance, but to more, no, I'm eating for health. It isn't about the dopamine. It isn't about satisfying my taste buds and eating something yummy, quote unquote. Could you just speak on that?
Yeah, I think as soon as I started to lose the weight, hey, look, I'm not going to lie. Good tasting food is important to me. And, you know, if I've got to eat not good tasting food every day, I'm not going to enjoy that. So I enjoy the food I eat. Now, would I enjoy a plate full of chocolate brownies and some pizza more? Maybe, but only in the short term. Right. And what I've learned is I am so much happier to walk into my closet and pick out clothes without having to stress about it, put on something that fits good, that feels good. I feel lighter all day. I sleep better because I'm not filled with garbage right before I go to bed. All of that is so much more satisfying to me by keeping my eye on the long range goal, as opposed to, you know, a brownie's going to make me pretty darn happy for 3 minutes.
Yep. Not even that.
Not even that. Yeah. So my relationship with food, I still love food. I love good tasting food. And I also want to eat things that make me feel good, that make me stay in this body size. Yeah. And as I age, that make me still feel vibrant and have the energy to do what I love to do on a daily basis.
So any sacrifice you're making by picking the healthy option versus the unhealthy option, well, the sacrifice for you is so worth it.
So worth it. So I'm so much happier.
Results you're getting, and this is important, based on the results you're getting on, but also off the scale.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
You mentioned how you feel. You're talking about physique, you're talking about fit of clothes, etc., etc. These are not necessarily number related. They're more physique, they're more well-being, they're more vitality, energy, how we feel about ourselves, confidence, feeling controlled, feeling disciplined.
Yeah. And I think I mentioned to you, I do a pretty intense annual physical at a clinic near here. and I do it once a year. And I just did it last week, and so I was curious what all my numbers were going to be. Talk about proud. I mean, there was, compared to last year, which my numbers weren't horrible last year, but cholesterol was up there in the borderline. My weight was, 15, 10, 12 pounds heavier than it is now. And so I had the full scan, bone scan, fat scan, pages and pages of blood work. And at the end of the results, they showed I did lose the weight. I lost very little muscle, because I continued, to work out and exercise. But all of my numbers were, every single one of them was in the healthy range. And I wasn't a disaster going into it, right? I'm not diabetic, things like that. But still, I learned how quickly things can spiral out of control, especially at my age, if you allow it to.
And the counterpoint to that is, look how quickly you can fix things when you actually commit. Look what you've just done in 12 weeks.
Right.
It's incredible. You've turned it around entirely in 12 weeks. That's a blip. You were trying to, you gained that initial weight 10 years ago, if I understand correctly.
7 years ago. Yeah.
Excuse me, 7 years ago with menopause.
Yep.
So you first started flirting, didn't you, with plant-based eating 10 years ago? Excuse me.
Yes, that's right.
7 years, and look what you've just done in 12 weeks. It's quite incredible. You actually commit. That's the key. That's the caveat, is people do this half-hearted, kind of dip their toes in, then they give up, or they get impatient. It's not as fast as they want, or they hit that first plateau, or they have that first binge eating session, and they just can't seem to get back on track.
Right. So, I think, the other thing is, and like I said, I've tried a bunch of different meal plans, diets that are whole food, plant-based, but, it's like, it's a different meal. It's a different meal every night for dinner, and every lunch is different. And I would go to the grocery store and be like, oh my gosh, I got to buy so much stuff, and da-da-da-da. This plan was totally different. It was just so easy.
It's so overwhelming, isn't it? To think
it really is, yeah.
20 different meals a week, or, I mean, that's pretty extreme. That's a different meal for every, meal time. So maybe that's the high end. But I mean, how many different meals? And of course, it varied. In hindsight, how many different meals do you think you had in a given week? How many different meals? How many different recipes do you think you used from the plan on a given week?
So I always ate the same sandwich for lunch, changing the vegetables up. So that was that. On breakfast, I would almost always just eat the muesli or, oatmeal, some sort of cereal. Occasionally, I would do like the veggie tofu scramble, but not very often. That would be on a weekend or something. And then dinners, I would alternate bowls and then throw in a pasta meal. So maybe,
So dinners probably had the most variety, didn't they?
Yeah.
Still maybe only 3 or 4 different dinners per week. Is that about right?
That's about right. But the base was, I just changed up the base. Instead of rice, I'd have quinoa. Instead of black beans, I'd have chickpeas, or, something like that. So I felt like I was still getting plenty of variety, but easy.
So again, themes in your success, keys that have been useful to you. Again, all these buzzwords now. Simplicity. How many times have we said that in this conversation? Again, some level of variety, but not an amount that is overwhelming. No elaborate recipes. Not sending to yourself to the grocery store with 30 different ingredients on a list, which are all you're gonna buy them in a certain quantity that might not fit the meal plan anyway. So you have loads of food.
Yeah.
Go to the dogs again. You're gonna have loads of food waste with that as well.
Right.
Which isn't even something we've mentioned. But I think key point there, simplicity, eh?
Yeah.
Any other, there go the dogs. You're now at your goal weight then, of course. Do you feel confident that you can maintain this?
Absolutely.
Yeah. No fear whatsoever that you're going to rebound? Even 1% of you that thinks, oh, I could mess this up?
No, I don't think so. And I say that because I feel like I did in my 30s again. I can wear clothes I wore in my 30s and 40s. And it's just too good of a feeling. It's not worth it to go back. And the cravings, they have subsided quite a bit. I mean, you know,
Do you think you'll ever have a little treat?
Sure.
You want
Sure.
again?
And I'm okay. And I have, since I finished the program, I have.
And you've gone up the scale?
Yeah, I'm fine on the scale. I watch the scale, but more importantly, I pay attention on how my clothes are fitting. But for me, it's a lifestyle, and a lifestyle doesn't last 12 weeks. A lifestyle lasts a lifetime, and so I don't want to look at it like, oh, that was a 12-week thing I did.
Stint, an extreme, yeah. Well, I think you are the epitome of slim and sustain. This is my whole shtick, right? You've heard it from me a million times, and so has everyone at home. But we've done the slimming part. That was the 15, 16 pounds done. Fantastic. You've got to your goal weight. Brilliant. But all of that is fairly meaningless if you use a strategy to achieve that doesn't really feel that sustainable to you.
Right.
Because then you arrive at your goal weight, and then you've got all these questions about, what do I do now? Like, do I need a habit change? Like, what do I add to my diet? What do I take away from my diet? What do I do with exercise? No, it needs to be, of course, weight loss and maintenance are different. That was our final coaching call, when we spoke about strategy for that. But the general themes and philosophy with which you eat and how you psychologically have changed, that all is going to carry right through to maintenance. It's not as though we need some crazily different approach now that you're at maintenance.
Right.
So that's the sustain part. And it sounds like you feel 100% confident that this is you set now. You're done. That's it. This
is me. Yeah, this is me.
This is how you eat.
Yeah. And if I can mention one other thing, Ryan, it was really interesting to me because, I've mentioned I have the Cooper Clinic is nearby, and, I do my physical there and everything. And last year, after I did my physical, I was like, God, I just still feel really heavy. And the doctor said, get a metabolic test, see how many calories you're eating, what you need to eat. So then I started counting calories, and I tried that for a few weeks. It was exhausting to me and limiting. And, I've constantly felt deprived. What was fascinating to me is I knew my caloric number from that metabolic test. And I didn't ask you calories before we started, and you didn't offer them. But when I finished the program, then you offered up that information. And what you picked was the exact number that the scientific test showed was the right amount for me as well. Yeah. So.
But this is really important.
But I didn't feel deprived with this number of calories. That's right. Yeah.
So without giving all our secrets away, all our slim and sustained secrets away that only my clients have access to, what do you think? And sorry to put you on the spot with a tricky question like this. Why do you think that is? Why do you think we took a similar enough calorie amount, but you felt entirely different and far more satisfied this time than previously? What did we get right in your meals?
I think without the guidance, you kind of flail around looking for, hey, I've got 1,800 or whatever the number of calories is. How am I going to fill them up? Well, if I start with, a Pop-Tart for breakfast, gosh, there's half of them, or there's a third of them, right? So the structure and the guidance of, here are foods that are going to make you feel full, satiated. Here are meal plans that are going to match that, but you don't have to think about any of that. Just eat and trust me. And that's what I did. I didn't ask. I was dying to ask questions like, how many calories do I need to eat? How much macro do I need to measure my macros? Because I've tried all those things. And so I know they're out there, but it was very freeing to just be like, I'm trusting Ryan. And wow, every Friday when I step on the scale, looks like Ryan's right. So
presumably, I don't want to speak for you, but when you start getting results, you let all of that go. All of this sort of angst about what's this planning for me? Like, what's he behind the scenes? Why is he giving me this much banana and this much oatmeal? And what about the protein? What about you sort of start letting that go when you start getting results, right? It's a bit of a sort of game, but that's
but it's also very freeing because it took the responsibility off of me. It took the worry off of me. I'm like, all I need to do is eat within this meal plan and enjoy it. And, you know, some weeks I was like, come on, there's, you know, I never was hungry. I didn't work out that much. I wonder what the scale's going to show. And I'll be darned if it still wasn't, you know, down a pound or down a pound and a half. Or so that to me was freeing, because for 12 weeks, I didn't really feel, you know, and that's where I am now. I trust the food now. So I didn't really feel like every night, oh my gosh, did I eat the wrong thing? Did I go over? Did I not count the calories? That's stressful to me.
All of that angst and the dread and the worry, like the stress. When you actually boil down what my role has been to you over these past couple of months, maybe I'm putting this really simplistically, maybe I'm doing myself a disservice by saying this, but my job is basically telling you what to do so you don't have to think anymore.
Exactly.
Which sounds really patronizing towards you, but you just be a little robot and just do as Ryan says. But that's what you're paying me for, because you're sick of having to try and figure all this stuff out and yourself and try and, you know, fit things into your diet and then worry about what you've just eaten. Is that weight loss friendly? Was the portion too big? Etc., etc. Just sort of hand the reins over to someone else and have them tell you, no, Lisa, this is exactly what and how much you're eating. Here's your options. Go and choose from any of these. They'll all work. So it doesn't matter if you have the hummus sandwich or the chicken sandwich or a lunch soup. I forget precisely what was on your particular meal plan. It's all going to work. It's all going to work the same. And that's what you're paying me for, to just simply tell you what to do so you don't have to think about it anymore.
Exactly. And I think I kind of laughed because I was like, man, Ryan, I was telling somebody, Ryan should add another S to his Slim and Sustain. He should say Simple, Slim, and Sustain.
Yeah. Well, that is one of the key themes. That's one of my 3 pillars that I'm always banging on about. Simplicity, structure, and sustainability. The simplicity we've talked about throughout. You needed structure. You needed someone to tell you what to do and give you some clear rules and boundaries. Hey, no, we don't go and eat vegan junk at night now. Here's your rules. You just do your plan. That's the structure. And the sustainability part is not being too aggressive, not taking away too many calories from the diet. So it's hard work. So you're going hungry, keeping the fiber nice and high so you feel full. You know, having the outlet, like we talked about right at the start, for cravings, the sweet tooth with lovely, sweet, rich, fresh fruits. And all of that stuff makes it sustainable. Doing the internal work that you've done, changing relationship with food, like we've spoken about several times throughout. So well done. You've absolutely crushed it. You've smashed it out the park. So thanks for your hard work. Any words of wisdom? Any other, sorry to put you on the spot, any other tips that we haven't discussed for the folks watching at home? Any other insights that might be useful to the people trying to lose weight out there?
I think the thing I would, in closing remarks, I would say, you know, I'm super grateful for you and the program, because for me, I was at a place where I had so many different, you know, ideas and recipes and things coming at me. And I really was able to step back and trust the process, trust you, trust the process, and watch it work, right? I tell people, if you trust this process and don't see results after, you know, 2 weeks or whatever, then you have a conversation about it. But I was seeing results after day 7, after day 14, after day 21. And so that's what made it really simple for me. And the other thing I would say is, I can't say this enough, but it is not necessary to walk around and be overweight during menopause. It's just not.
And just accept it.
And just accept it. Yeah. So, you know, I know a lot of people say, buy the bigger size and relax. But I say, I feel so much better, so much happier, so much lighter in the size that I know is my size.
Good for you for not submitting to it when that seems to be the sort of cultural norm now.
Yeah.
So thank you. I think it's going to be really valuable to folks at home, Lisa. So thanks for your time and your insight.
Yeah.
And for those watching at home, if you do want some help, if you want results, like I get my clients like Lisa on Slim and Sustain, fill out the form at the link down below, veganslimandsustain.com, and I'll be in touch with all the details about the program. Thank you, Lisa.
Thank you, Ryan.